because these people have been so hard on you, which I don't get. I really don't. I think ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. Gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything.
Comedian Trevor Noah cracking jokes as America's families struggle to pay for food and gasoline. Voters aren't laughing. A new ABC News and Washington Post poll finds 68% of people disapprove of President Biden's handling on inflation. 50% trusting Republicans over the Democrats to handle the growing crisis. Christian, your reaction to this? I don't think President Biden had a choice but to fake chuckle, or maybe real chuckle, at Trevor Noah, but he ran the risk of laughing at the hardship of Americans, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I mean, the real shocker here is that Trevor Noah said something funny. I mean, that comedian, quote unquote, usually doesn't. Like most people, I did not watch the White House Correspondent Association dinner, never would. But yeah, this was surprising. For Biden to chuckle, to sort of do what his vice president does whenever she's presented with something she doesn't quite understand, he needs a better response. Maybe that wasn't the best venue for it, but just to dismiss this thing, a lot of people don't watch the news as much as you and I do, or the people watching this program, but they buy stuff. And when they go to the supermarket or when they try and fill up the tank, it's out of control. And this is an existential threat to his presidency. He needs to explain why, for example, that his government has $1 trillion plus deficits as far as the eye can see, why the Fed has added more than $1 trillion during his tenure, more than they added to their balance sheet during the entire 2008 financial crisis. All of the things that are actually driving inflation. He needs some sort of solution to this.
I could go on about that, because it seems to be the Federal Reserve's job to bail out the leveraged rich, because at every turn their policy response simply drives up asset prices that are held largely by rich folks. And what they've done is they've punished savers during this crisis and during the last one. They inflated assets owned by the leveraged rich, and now they've created inflation, which is not an inconvenience, Brandon, for average Americans. It is a hardship.
Yeah, I mean, inflation is so regressive. It's one of the most regressive forms of what is essentially a tax on lower income Americans, because rich people can afford it to some extent, these price increases, but poor people, less affluent people, are more reliant on these basic staples that have gone through the roof: gasoline, food. All of the basic necessities of life have increased in price. So it's fine for Biden to laugh about it in this context, I suppose. I mean, people honestly have been laughing about this administration by and large for the past year and a half. So I guess maybe they ought to laugh at themselves just a little bit, but they really need to focus on fixing the problems that are hurting their approval numbers, but more importantly, are hurting real Americans on an everyday basis, because that's really no laughing matter.
And Christian, before we go, and what is kind of appalling is that the White House's response has been to lie about their policy promises. Their policy, remember that Build Back Better, that was going to, we need to spend more money to lower inflation. Remember that, Jim? Now they want to raise taxes, which would be bad for inflation, but it would also be damaging if we are entering a recession. And then forgiving student loan debt. The moratorium on student loan payments has been inflationary, and now they want to basically spit in the face of Americans. More than half the country didn't even go to college. And then those, again, spitting in the face of those who didn't go to college or paid their own way.
Right. In the left's Bible used to be Keynesianism, and even if you believe that discredited theory, you should know that more spending, more aggregate demand that you create from spending will increase prices, will increase inflation. I thought that the Obama administration would be the most ideological of my life, but it turns out this one is. They are just committed to transforming America, and data and facts be damned. Nothing is going to stop them.
Not even the data that shows that people's wages are not, and salaries are not keeping up with inflation. They're falling in the last 12 months. In fact, disposable income per capita has fallen by $2,600 in just the last year. That's a hardship and not worth laughing about. Coming up, the surprise visit to Ukraine. Nancy Pelosi